Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Safe Room, a survival horror game club podcast. I'm Grace, and with me is my co-host, Rose.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm taking photos of some paintings.
Ooh, well, there's a skeleton there. I love the skeletons that are just like, use the mallet on the mirror, or whatever.
Yeah.
Just like friendly little guys.
The first one I sent you is my favorite, which I gotta find the screenshot.
Oh, yeah.
It was, fuck.
Oh, it's back a ways, yeah.
God.
Oh my god. We would oh, I found it.
Feels like
the chandelier fell. I was too slow. Beware.
I was too slow. Beware.
Oh, it's really good.
Which I know he's saying beware of the chandelier, but it does come off like he forgot that he needed to get a spook in there.
Right, yeah. Ooh. Yeah, we played Sweet Home. Which I think this is arguably, right? The first survival horror game? Question mark, exclamation point, question mark?
Well, the internet said it inspired Resident Evil, so.
Right, well, we're going to talk about that. I guess, what did you think? First impressions, first thoughts, opening salvo.
This game is charming as hell.
Yes, it really is.
And the gameplay systems are interesting.
Yeah. I do think this isn't annoying.
I did get tired of it after an hour.
No, I think it took me longer, but this morning I woke up early and was gonna finish in the morning anyway. So I was like, okay, I might as well just plow through. And I was also vaguely planning on okay, I'll go back to bed. But the game ended up being this set of contrived annoyances where it was fuck, I need to get the rope and I don't remember where I put a rope and I'm running around and then all of a sudden I was oh, there's a bow right there. I could have just gotten that. And then I got that and so there's a lot of stuff that I think kind of in the classic way when you're playing an older video game, there's a lot of stuff that's just kind of inconvenient and annoying, and it's hard to I don't know that it feels necessarily like a hardware limitation, but it feels like a function of the way games were designed at the time. And in some ways it's fascinating and incredible, and there's so many things about this game that feel so well realized. And also it really does feel like, I said this on Blue Sky, but it feels like the whole thing is here. And some things that haven't really shown up that aren't in Resident Evil, right? But so much of survival horror DNA is just totally fully realized here. And then also there's stuff where it's just man, I'm just irritated. This is so annoying. Yeah. Right. And I did end up using a guide, especially since I had not been playing it. And so I wasn't rushing, but I was trying to get to the end. Please continue.
I ended up watching a walkthrough.
Mm-hmm.
I played the first kind of area. And then I didn't play it for a while. And then I picked it back up and I was I am not going to get through this.
Yeah.
Let me watch it. And then as I was watching, I realized I made the right choice because there's a lot you got to do.
Yeah, no, it's also it's easy to, because I realized last night I was looking at the guide and there's a set of items you have to get to enter the final, to defeat the final boss, and then another set you have to get to enter the final area. And I was fuck, I did not pick up the first two of these that I could have picked up earlier. And so I had to go back and get both of those. And that was that was a major pain in the ass.
I do like the item. I do like the item that's titled low and then the key symbol on it.
Yeah. Low key. Yeah. No, it's cute. I feel like I had another thing to say there, but I lost it. Yeah, I also think this is an interesting. I'm glad we watched the movie. Because I do think this is really interesting as a work of adaptation in the ways that it is. I mean, we talked about that a little bit on that episode on the Patreon, which you can subscribe to if you haven't, spookygame.club. But there's like the way that this, and I think is actually super smart, and I think a problem a lot of video game adaptations of movies kind of don't do, is there's some plot beats and there's some enemies, I guess, or like the final boss is the kind of final ghost that is encountered in the movie, right? But most of the adaptation is kind of systemic. It takes like some central ideas, like, taking photography of the murals, the vacuum, having to vacuum the murals, the like different objects that the different characters have and their roles, like in relationship to each other, right? Like that all gets kind of incorporated in. And then there's like a couple plot beats that get taken more or less straightforwardly from the film. But for the most part, it is like just to like, and the fact that people can die and these sorts of things, that it's like there is this the adaptation is both like incorporates a lot of stuff from the film and feels like directly in conversation with it, but also is like uninterested in replicating the plot. And I think that is like, it's really smart. And I think it proves like the model that licensed games had like in the early 2000s through to like the early 2010s is like a deeply unsatisfying and probably negative one. Right. In comparison to something like this, which feels so inventive and nevertheless still grounded in the source material.
Yeah. I'm just realizing the closest game that we played to this is like The Thing.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, actually.
Which is also a game that has permadeath and like party mechanics and stuff.
Yes, yeah. One that's also trying to render the like social paranoia of the thing in a systemic way. Because it doesn't really affect the narrative so much, right? But you have your party guys and that creates the systemic element of it.
Yeah. This is also very much a kind of rogue like.
Yes, yeah.
Not as so much as not like the game part is obviously going to be the same, but just in terms of like a random events happening and like the random encounters and just like random things happening to your player characters.
Yeah.
Could easily see this being a game that you would maybe like boot up every Halloween or something and just see how a run goes or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and there's also like I feel like I'm not like super acquainted with classic roguelikes. Like I've played some, but a few friends of mine were really into NetHack in high school. And so I watched that, played a fair amount, and played a little bit of myself. And that is a game that's really interested in like conditions. And I think Case of Cut is also the same way. From what I've seen of that being played, that there's like a lot of like getting poisoned or getting like whatever, and there being this sort of like figuring out how to navigate the like ecosystem of stuff and that has like, this game has that, right, where it's like you get frozen or poisoned or cursed, and those kind of mean different things, and they all are cured with the remedy. So you like but you have to kind of navigate there's like a miniature ecosystem of the dungeon that you have to like understand and work through, and like also negotiate with random shit happening to you, right? Which is very like roguelike in a classic sense. Although yeah, obviously, I mean, just to clarify this for the listener, the layout is not randomized, right? The dungeon is the same every time.
Yeah.
yeah,
But
I mean,
you never know. Your guy might get swept up by a tornado randomly.
yes, true. Yeah, I also really like the mix of enemies you can avoid and enemies and random encounters. Like that feels like it's such a horror gamey kind of thing that there's like situations where you want to run away from something and the game lets you do that. But then also there's times where it like locks you in or forces battles on you. And the unpredictability of that, I just think is a really like it. Everyone knows the sensation of like going somewhere in Pokemon and being annoyed when you like accidentally go into the tall grass and a battle instantly starts, right? Or like, whatever. But I think that the idea that making that that randomness a mechanism of like scares, I guess, or like tension is like a really cool idea that I don't know that a lot of games of this kind, like even like JRPGs in the traditional sense, like really play on. Although those are also games about like resource management and like ability management, which this very much is also. So. Should we like summarize what happens in the game really quick?
Yeah.
And then kind of get into maybe some of the nitty and gritty parts of the systems. Because that'll be the focus. There's not a ton of like narrative content to talk over, but yeah, on a basic level, it's like basically the same premise as the film. You got a team of 5 and it's all the same characters, right? From the film, you're going to a haunted house. You're trying to preserve the frescoes of this artist. The house is haunted by the artist's wife, whose baby fell into an incinerator and died, and she began kidnapping other children and throwing them in the incinerator. You explore the mansion, find out the mystery of the mansion. A guy from the town, who in the game has been trapped in the mansion for years, which is not an element of the film, helps you and disintegrates into gooey flesh in the process. You encounter the ghost, return the body of the baby to it, and free the mansion. One of the differences that this has like a less optimistic ending because you get the like guy turning to you and his face being a skull, which is like also just one of the enemies in the game. Man, which is so funny. I was like, I feel like this every day when a man talks to me.
Psycho, which is a man but palette swap.
Yes. Oh, sometimes it's like that. Sometimes real life is like Sweet Home, you know? And yeah. And so, the game is like kind of classic dungeon crawler shit. You can save at any time. But you have one save file. So if people die, then they die. And the game, every character, basically you manage a party of 5. You can't have more than 3 people in one party at a time, but you can switch between any member freely. Each party member has 2 inventory slots, so a lot of the game is managing like who has keys, who has items that you might need, like a pick to traverse ice floors, or a rope to get across caverns, or to avoid quicksand. Is like a case in one area of the game, or mallet to break mirrors with, or get rubble out of the way, right? And different areas are kind of themed around these sort of different abilities. Each character also has like an innate quality. One character has a vacuum, and you can vacuum up stuff on the ground, or like remove debris from frescoes, so you can photograph them, which is another item. One character has a lighter with which you can harm some enemies and also burn rope that you might find in your way. One character has a key, and then one character has remedy, which like heals other characters of their ailments, but doesn't restore health or prayer points, which is the magic equivalent, I guess. And that's basically the big overview of what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other thing I'll say is that as a RPG in strict terms, this is pretty slight. You can mostly just attack. Prayer points are like magic in that you have, essentially mana, which you can recover, but it's kind of expensive too. And so you want to be like careful about when you're using it. Although by the end I had so much juice there that I could just kind of spam it if I wanted to. But I didn't because I didn't really need to. And then you can use some items as like the lighter you can use to like light up some maggots, and cameras work against bats and things like that. But that doesn't come up a ton, but it's a nice little bit of flavor. I think the meat of the game is essentially in the map. And the battles serve to like be an area of attrition where you that constantly whittle down your health and prayer points so that your situation becomes more and more desperate, and you have to try and like like kind of roguelike in some sense, like stretch your limits. Like, how should I use this tonic right now to heal up all my guys back to full, or should I save it? Also, like, should I use this tonic to save a person? Because I don't know if you figured this out, but the guide I had pointed out that like, if you use a tonic when everybody's in a battle together, then it heals everybody, which is super useful. But you might be in a situation where like 2 of your people are off somewhere else in the mansion, and 3 of your people are somewhere else, or whatever, right? Whatever the case might be. And then it's like, okay, do we use this tonic to like save this one person's life, meaning that I can't use it on any other person, right? Like those kinds of decisions are the game, like deciding when to leave objects behind and when to pick them up, trying to remember where they are. I think if I had played this without a guide, like I would have been cursing myself for not using actually drawing a map and like remembering all the locations of like where I left stuff. Because that was a source of frustration.
And there are also like duplicates because any character could die. Mm-hmm. If you lose the camera guy, you can find a camera and stuff like that.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, and there's like the pills, right? Which I never used, but equivalent to the remedy and things like that, yeah. No, and I think parts of the game don't feel like it is... there are games of this era that leave their mysteries like totally opaque, right? And this might also be a function of like the fan translation, that I think we both played the same one, I imagine. But
does it start with "Hey, sexy, are you okay"?
I don't know if mine did. You might have played a different one then.
No, it's they're all chatting, and then the ghost attack happens, and then the horny guy's like, "Hey, sexy, are you okay?"
Oh wait, I do remember this now. Yeah, okay, I got it.
And then Emmy goes, "Wah."
I think that's also like there's sort of in the film there's like an antagonism between all the different characters that is basically non-existent in this. You're all on a team. You're all friends.
I think the most antagonism you get is like, "Hey, should we pair up?" Nah.
Yeah, no thank you. I also love this sort of sometimes like Emmy just being like, someone being like, "I think we should split up for now," and Emmy's just like, "Okay." All right, I guess if you say so. I think that's cute. But it's funny when, like, at the end of the game when you're all like shouting at the ghosts to go to hell or whatever, to go die.
Your
like
kid's dead, lady.
Yes,
get over it.
Mm-hmm. It's not like that. In the movie, they're like holding up the body and like scared and frightened, and in this, they're like, "Fuck you!" It's like the end of It. They're like yelling at Pennywise.
I'm just imagining like the end of like Nier Automata, but everybody is telling you to go fuck yourself.
Yes! Oh my god! Is that like the end of the beginner's guide? Maybe is that like?
I haven't played the beginner's guide.
Well, not really. It's also been. I haven't played that in a million years.
I'm not a real game critic.
What is that? This is not related to anything except what you just said. But my dad told a story a couple times about like an English student he knew, and they were playing a game. I don't really know how this worked, but part of it was like naming major works of literature that you haven't read, and like the less obscure and the more central the work to the study of English literature, the more points you would get in the game. And so he won by saying he hadn't read Hamlet, which was true, right? But then like in his dissertation advisement, they were like, I don't know if we could give an English degree to a guy who hasn't read Hamlet. I don't know if that's a true story, but I don't think Beginner's Guide is that central though to the profession. I haven't played Mario 64.
People were talking about it like it was like 10 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is a game that feels like it's kind of like Cyberpunk 2077 in that I think the discourse around it and the response to it is like emblematic of what games criticism was in that moment, in for warts and all, like in good ways and bad, right?
And I wasn't even far off. That game is literally 10 years old as of next month.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. Maybe I'll pitch something on that. Yeah, anyway, Sweet Home.
And people love it when you talk about games criticism specifically.
Oh yeah, God. I was literally writing in my notebook.
I'm so sorry. I have to, I googled the beginner's guide. First Reddit that comes up. The beginner's guide : can we talk about it normally?
Oh my God. I mean, that is like everything. Everything is like this. People can't be normal about Silksong now. There's just whatever.
Yeah.
People were so not normal about Expedition 33. My God.
Yeah.
The maximum amount of not fucking normal. Also, I was going to say, speaking of yelling at the final boss. So the way you fight the final boss.
That's how we got here.
Yes. Yeah. Is that you have to pick up a bunch of like 4 different items throughout the mansion, and then when she like says a specific thing, it's a trigger to use like the items in sequence, and it does tell you the order, right? And so it's like a diary, a photo, the coffin that her child is in. There's one other object that the amulet. For whatever reason, which I guess is just like a crucifix warding off evil kind of protection thing. And there's a part where, because she's the game kind of portrays it, which is again different from the movie, where she's like kind of clutching onto life and in delusion that she's still alive when she isn't. And you're yelling at her being like, you're fucking dead. And your kid is dead. And the part of me that kills me is when she's like, but my husband loves me. And then you like whip out the diary and are like, guess what?
Amazing.
Yeah, it's very funny. I also did, because I mentioned that there's a couple, like the disintegration beat that's in both the film is in this, and I cheered.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so good.
You get I think the sprite work in this game generally is like just wild. Fantastic. Yeah.
There's that part towards the end where like you fight like your doubles,
yes,
I guess.
Yeah.
And you get just like full sprites of the actors that were in the movie, and it looks sick.
Yeah, they look so good. It's so cool. I mean, I think this game generally just has like, it's so atmospheric. I love, there's a part, I sent you a screenshot of this, when you like go out onto the balcony on the second floor, and there's just like the forest stretching in all directions, right? And I think it is kind of, I mean, I don't mean to be like, oh, the limited tools, but like, it's just there is this sense of space in that moment. And that also is kind of like frightening and enlivening because you're so trapped, right? So much of the game is about you being in these kind of enclosed spaces. Often, you're in this like big square of quicksand, or you're sliding down ice towards a bunch of like corpses or whatever, like the bodies at the end of that are. And like, there's the sense of confinement, of lack of control. And then the shock of like going outside, there's a world out there and you're trying to get back there, right? Kind of emotional, like dramatic, and like has this sense of like pacing. It's really cool. And I think the game does have this like really kind of like luxurious visual language that feels like really lovely. I mean, it's kind of the same thing that Resident Evil borrowed the opening of the doors from this, right? When you open a door with a key, you get the animation of the door opening, right? And that, I just think there is this, it's so textured, right? And I think that makes it like, that's one of the things I think that makes it so charming, right?
Yeah. I really like my favorite shot in this game. This is probably the part where you have to dig up the key, and then you dismantle the tower, and then there's just like a shot of the hole in the ground. That looks sick. It is like the forest in the background, and the ground is all like purpley blue, like it's in the moonlight. It just looks awesome.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah. This was also the screenshot that you posted for the questions post, I think. So
yeah, it just looks
if people
cool
were going, it does look cool. No, I think it is like, and this is also something that like pulls on, there's a set piece in the film where one of the characters is like burned in half and his torso is like running around, and there's an enemy that's like a torso, just called Torso.
It's so the random encounters are great I guess that's all the encounters they do this, where like the music stops and then it crescendos, and then the enemy sprite comes up, and then it says the name of the enemy at the bottom with 2 exclamation marks.
Yes, yeah.
So it's just like it's very goofy, and I think it's really fun.
Yeah, no,
it's
like it is like, yeah. I mean, you said earlier like the kind of game you would boot up every Halloween, and it is that sort of the horrific as like cutesy friend, it has that vibe to it.
Yeah, it's very like playful. In a way that's really fun.
Yeah, no, I very much agree. I think like, and I think that's also something that like Resident Evil it feels a little more buttoned up. But it does have that too. I guess it's kind of, Resident Evil is maybe a little bit more camp, I guess, but it is kind of in that vein, right? There's sort of a absurdity there that has a resonance. Do we, kind of related to that, do we want to talk about like the idea of this game inspiring Resident Evil and issues we have with that framing?
Okay, one, I guess, like, shouts out to the translators, because obviously we wouldn't be able to play this game otherwise. But also, there's that scene. It's the scene you were talking about with the forest.
Yes, yeah.
And there's a note that drops Resident Evil by name. And when they're just talking about the mansion.
Yeah, I think the guide I used said something about like residing evil. So it's not like, I don't think it's an inaccurate translation, but I don't think it's like, it doesn't say biohazard. In there, right? It's not, I don't think, intended to be a direct reference.
It's I just think it's obnoxious.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, I think this is kind of, we talked about this off mic, like Or no, maybe was this on the? Did we talk about this a little bit on the movie recording?
I think so.
But like, you know, this game does share staff with Resident Evil, right? Like the director is like the producer of RE, right? And so I think it's like there's true that there's inspiration in the sense of like it continues some of the same ideas. Resident Evil, I believe, originated as a remake of this game, and you know became a sort of separate thing. And that's all like fair and fine, but I do think it is like inspiration kind of implies that there's not like a direct lineage. And this is a game that was made by Capcom, right? There's a direct, you know, relationship to Resident Evil, right?
It's also just the thing I find especially annoying about this framing is that like this game inspired Resident Evil and that's why it's important,
right?
It's like, no, the thing stands on its own as like a really cool game, and it's really unique and it has it was produced concurrently with a movie, like that's unique for the time. But even without that, like it is just a cool horror RPG for the NES. And like the importance of it shouldn't be couched to a franchise that they're still making installments of.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
That aspect of it is just very dumb to me.
Yeah, no, I think I do. Yeah, I agree. And I think it is like in some ways, maybe that comes out of this being like it's just kind of it is intentionally a difficult and abrasive game to engage with. Right. And I think people are kind of content to consume it as like a curiosity and not to engage with it directly. Which is also fine. Like you don't have to play Sweet Home. Right. But I do think that, yeah, it is very much worth taking on its own merits. And also like, you know, Resident Evil doesn't exist without like Alone in the Dark. Right. Stuff like Clock Tower also predates Resident Evil. Right. There's other stuff in the soup. Right. And RE comes out of like multiple sort of sets of things. Right. And then also, you know, like you can say way more directly that Alone in the Dark inspired Resident Evil. Right. Because there's not the same kind of lineage in terms of like people working on it. Right. Anyway.
Yeah. Part of this is also like I'm just more Silent Hill brained. I think the inspiration behind Silent Hill are more interesting.
Yeah. So. Yeah. That's true. I mean, that is like the, you know, the thinking man survival horror. Silent Hill.
Yeah, but you know, like Resident Evil is just like, yeah, they liked horror and they made a horror game. It's like, okay, that's not interesting.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
But you know, when Silent Hill is just like, oh yeah, they watched a bunch of psychological horror movies and they made a psychological horror game. It's like, cool. You know? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think it is also that like, this, I don't mean this in a disparaging way towards Resident Evil, and maybe I haven't played enough of the series to like really say this for certain, but like I do feel like the ways it's inspired by like horror movies is primarily in the sense of like aesthetic signifiers, right? It's not that you can't really say that like Resident Evil 1 is thematically engaged with Night of the Living Dead in like a real way, you know, like it's not really. And there might be other, you know, there is like the corporation element and stuff, which is in some zombie movies and things, right? I don't mean to say that there's no meat on that bone, but just that like when you watch something like Jacob's Ladder and think about Silent Hill 2, right? In particular, I think, because those are both games about purgatory in some sense, right? That there is
pulling up the Carl Jung chart.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, totally. And I think that like there is a level of like Silent Hill 2 is really thematically engaged with its inspirations in a way that I think Resident Evil is not in the same way, or not is on at as deep a level, right? And I think you can get something from that interaction out of Silent Hill that you can't in the same way out of RE, which isn't to say that there's not interesting stuff to talk about there. I don't mean to, but like, we're Silent Hill people. We think those games are better than Resident Evil, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think one of the things that's also interesting is that this has the party management stuff, which I think Resident Evil Outbreak might have, which is the like 4-person team Resident Evil game. But which is like, it is a 4-player game, to be clear. And that's also a distinction, right? You're not one person piloting a bunch of people. You're 4 people playing as 4 people, right? And that, I think that's interesting. It's also just interesting that is something that like Resident Evil picks up on it in the sense that you can play as different people, you know? But you don't navigate the space at the same time and you can't switch between them freely. Right. There's not, as far as I'm aware, there's not really a survival horror game that picks up on this. I mean, I'm sure there is one, but I'm not aware of one. Right. And I do think that's kind of a shame. Because it is a part of horror, right? The ensemble. Video game horror tends to be lonely, and it's really interesting that one of the very first examples of it is so social. Right. And that it's just not in other games of its kind, it feels like. Kind of in the same vein, I'd be really curious to see if there's like RPGs that sort of, and maybe like Shin Megami Tensei is kind of in this vein, you know? But that's also like stuff like, what is it called? What's the DS science fiction one where you're like on a moon of Jupiter or something? Anyway, that's like very dungeon crawly, sort of Etrian Odyssey-y. And that's kind of like what early Shin Megami Tensei is like. And so there's got to be some overlap there, but I couldn't say. Dia could say probably. Dia's probably got a lock on it.
What else?
Yeah. Are there any parts of the game that like especially frustrated or bewildered you?
Just the things that you mentioned of like managing items and switching between the parties. I got really old, especially when like especially when you just like need to take a picture of the fresco and you're just like, all right, I gotta switch to the vacuum guy and then I gotta switch back to the camera guy.
There's a lot of like, I also kind of had a confusion around like, what is it? Use the party button to switch which member you're controlling and the team button to like talk to someone and form a group. Right.
Yeah.
And that tripped me up all the time where I would like hit the party button intending to form a group or hit the team button intending to switch party members. Right. Yeah. Like there's I think there's a lot of like click clack kind of you could make a version of this with like some quality of life changes that would immediately remove like a lot of the sort of like more tedious friction of it. And probably like maintain the interesting parts of that friction, I think, pretty well.
Yeah.
There is something about the like, I don't know. There's something really expressive to me about the like adventure game verb thing of like, look, talk, you know, and that these becoming like verbs that have this sort of expansive array. And I guess that's kind of turned into like you hit the A button when you're in front of something and you interact with it. Right. Which is like obviously way more elegant. And not necessarily less expressive. Right. But I don't know. There's something about hitting look.
Yeah. I I did think it was funny whenever there would be like a child on the floor and you go to look and then it's like, no, it's nothing.
Yeah. I also liked the like sometimes where it's like the dead bodies, it's like you talk and there's nobody there, but then you look and they talk to you. And that would trip me up sometimes too.
I didn't have a stick, so I drowned.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Oh well. Yes, that's right. Oh my god. Oh well.
They're just like Dark Souls messages.
Yeah, they kind of are. It kind of is proto Dark Souls. Like, there is this like friendliness with a lot of the ghosts where they're just like, yeah, I'm fucking dead, man. Yeah, it's hard out here. You know. And you're like, yeah, man, I'm trying not to die. And he's like, oh no. You know, use the mallet to break open the mirror in this room. There's something. There is sort of a camaraderie to that is very charming. Oh my god, I had another thought. Oh, one of the things that really annoyed me was the part where you go in the dungeon, which is like the bottom level, and there's like the river that you have to like go into at the right spot so you can like maneuver across it fast enough because it's like flowing downward. And if you put yourself in the wrong position, then you can like miss the place that you're supposed to turn onto. And there were like times where it was like, I just did that like 2 times in a row with like, oh, I got off on the wrong spot and then had to like go back to the beginning and like walk through this little maze and then missed it again and then went back. And there was a point where it was like, I had to go back there to find an item or something. And I was like, I want to die. Like that's just so like, and you know, it's not like there were spikes at the end of the river, I think, but like most of it is ahead of that. So it's like, it's easy to avoid taking damage, but it is like hard to get the exact timing right. And that led to like this like frustration at moving through the thing. Yeah. There's also those fucking like doors in the sector of the game where there's those ice rooms where there's like a door that just goes right onto the ice. And so if you don't have a pick in one of those people's inventory, you're fucked. because the door just opens and you like one of you will like slide onto the like damage dealing tiles at the bottom of them. And that got me bad a couple times. But the thing is, like, most of the like hazards don't deal like that, like especially by the end when you have like 2000 HP or whatever. It's like you can tank most stuff and you get enough tonics by the end as well. At least since I was following a guide that it was not, you know, it wasn't so bad. But yeah. I'm trying to think. I did. One of my people did die, and I did reload a save state. So maybe to my shame, but you know, what are you gonna do?
There's like different endings, I think.
Oh, really? Well, I guess there's that like ending shot where you have like all the like I had everyone like posing for a photo basically or whatever, and so you would probably have there would be sprites changing or missing from that at the very least. I think also, yeah, I would like to see, I mean, also, yeah, if people know of like I don't know, I don't necessarily want a Sweet Home spiritual successor, but I would be curious about like a game that's structured similarly that has like more robust RPG mechanics, and what that might look like, because I think that, I don't know that it's a weakness that it's so thin, because it does feel like it's a meaningful friction, and like it can be, especially at first, it's scary to go places because it means you're in danger, right? And there is this like sense of attrition and like, and I think that it plays is really meaningful, even if like in each individual battle you're not making that many like notable dramatic strategic decisions. But I would be interested to see what like doing something like this might look like with kind of more complexity to it. I don't know. IDK. It could be really good. I think it could also lose maybe it needs to be simple. But I would like to see someone experiment with it.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Are we have we got anything else? I'm trying to
Gaming.
Orson Welles' voice. Gaming.
No,
yeah,
I wanted to shout out the one YouTuber that this is not has nothing to do with Sweet Home.
Okay.
But I brought it up earlier because I thought it was funny. There's a guy on YouTube that does gaming videos, but they like did a bunch of Silent Hill 2 videos. And every time, and one of these included the fucking multiverse theory, whatever.
Oh, right, yeah.
But every single Silent Hill video just turned into him talking about Carl Jung.
Oh yeah, I think you sent me like a
and
screenshot.
He would pull up
time.
a chart of like Carl Jung. I just thought it's just really funny.
You
it's
know,
like different videos on how Silent Hill 2 is samsara, actually.
Yeah.
It's just really funny.
Do you know who's like big into Jung?
Soph, right?
Yeah, yep. So we got to get Sophie to play Silent Hill 2 is what. And she'll be texting me about the archetypes with 3 exclamation points. Yeah. That's so funny. There was I don't know if you saw this, but there was a point, Soph's not really on Letterboxd anymore, but when they were a lot, her like top 4 movies was like 4 different movies named Jung or something like that. You know, she was never really a poster, but in some way she has a poster's heart. Complimentary, of course.
It's bad to be posting out here these days, you know?
It is so bad. It's so bad. I think maybe I do need to remember a little bit that it used to be good or used to be better. But I do feel like an old woman about it.
The poster's heart goes to our communities now.
Yeah, true.
And not the corporations that own the posts.
Sorry, I thought of something that I have not posted and probably will not post. Well, because okay, I could share this. I'm sorry, I should be elusive. It's not. I'm just laughing at my own joke. Yeah, have you read Hunter or watched Hunter x Hunter?
I've seen like an episode.
Okay, well, I won't spoil it, but there's like a very emotional character death at one point. And Emma's been reading it, and so she showed me like that sequence. We watched the anime together, and I'm behind. She's been reading the manga, and I'm like a few volumes behind her. So she showed me that sequence, and I was like, "That's why he's the GOAT!" Like, it's so emotional, it's so powerful, right? I was getting excited about it. And then Hisoka is like one of the villainous characters, and he's like this super effeminate child predator guy. He's like very clown man, very crazy character. And so like later in the volume, Emma was reading and there was like a shot of him like lining the side of a page with like super wide birthing hips. And I was also like, that's why he's the GOAT. And I was like, there's a tweet. I could make that into a tweet. Right. But now I've saved it for you, the podcast audience. Yeah, you know, I want to resist always being like, you haven't done X? That's crazy. Because sometimes it's nice and exciting when someone hasn't done something, but Hunter x Hunter is good. You would probably like it.
I should probably read Hamlet first.
Read Hamlet? Oh, right. Yeah. Okay, no, sorry, I got it. I was like, what does Hamlet have to do with Hunter x Hunter? I guess it's also about absentee fathers. That's like a key thematic element of both.
I'm famously bad at watching things and reading things.
Yeah.
Except for Twin Peaks, I guess, which I just watch all the time now.
Listen, it's good.
I'm trying. I'm trying to keep up with a book club, a local book club.
Oh, nice.
I'm trying to read books in a reasonable amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
and not like taking 3 months to read a short novel.
Yeah,
I usually do.
I feel you. Like I'm not really a slow reader, but sometimes it's hard to get me to sit down and just read.
Yeah.
And I've also been watching Mad Men for like 4 years at this point, so I gotta wrap that up. I'm on the last season, but I watch like an episode every 2 months or something. Ugh. So I'm, I read a little bit better, but yeah, TV is hard for me unless it's like something Em and I are watching together, and even then. But yeah, I mean, I'm really glad we did this. I feel like this was something I feel like that looms large in the background of a lot of the games we've played. And I think it felt really exciting to me to play it and find both like, wow, like the genre feels so realized here, it feels like there's all these things that I really care about and value about these games, that excites me about the design, that is just like so present and characterful, even in this like very early instantiation of them. And also to find that there were so many things about it that were so different and not like anything else we've played on the show. And I think that just felt like so exciting and wonderful to me. And yeah, it's nice to play something old and still feel like the magic or the pull of it. I think, and this game like has that. It has charisma, and that is good. It's lovely.
Yep. How many booms? I'm gonna give it 5 booms.
5 booms.
No, I am. I'm kind of a NES hater. I don't know why. NES games. I just don't like playing them, I guess.
Yeah.
This one had the sauce though. This one was cool as hell.
Yeah. I do think I don't know, because I'm not like a huge I don't really care about, maybe this is blasphemy, but like I don't really care about Super Mario at this period.
No.
I don't I'm kind of a World, like if a 2D Mario, I think World is probably the one that I would pick, right? And then I don't know, but I love Final Fantasy 1. That is still like one of my favorite games. I think that's like I find Final Fantasy 1 like super moving and beautiful. And I think it's very different games in many ways, but I think this had sort of a similar, like, there's a bareness to what can be, a bareness to how like the aesthetics of this period work, and therefore like this sort of infinity that can be evoked by the simplicity of it, right? I think like Final Fantasy 1 is a game about time and about time passing and things changing and you being forgotten. And I think that feels like, despite that being kind of like a thematic switch that gets flicked at the end of the game, right? There's something about the bareness of it that really makes that work, and the kind of way that the flatness, when there's like science fiction shit that shows up in Final Fantasy 1, there's like robots and airships and stuff. It's rendered kind of the same way as the medieval fantasy stuff, right? And using the same kind of language. And I think that gives it this sense of like, there's a sense of eternity to it, right? And I think that, that scene I talked about earlier, like opening the door onto the forest, right? And even like seeing the mansion collapse, like in the movie, right? There is this sense of time that is really moving to me. Also, I do love Castlevania. Castlevania whips. No pun intended. Fuck.
My thing with Castlevania is I hate not having air control.
Yeah, the jump is crazy. I will concede that. It's nuts. It's brutal. Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
Um,
also amazing music in this game.
yeah, it is so repetitive, but it's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the lake music.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I think, yeah, again, it feels like such a tone piece. It's so nice. Yeah. I think it is like, I don't know. I think people do. Atmosphere really matters, I think. I think it's really important. And maybe I do feel like I'm such an aesthetics forward person. And like even the way that I care about like tech is really not in terms of nuts and bolts. It is kind of in terms of like aesthetic experience and like tactile experience, I guess. I'm really not like a numbers person. So maybe that's just that. But I feel like this game has so much through how much atmosphere it has. It feels really important to it. Yeah. Well, have we got emails this month that we should go through?
Let's see. We have one email.
Okay.
From Frank Lee. Frank.Lee.
Okay. Hello, Frank.
Dear manager.
Oh. Fuck.
Comma. Comma line break, parentheses. If you're not the person who is in charge of this, please forward this to your CEO because this is urgent. Thanks.
This is urgent? Oh, shit.
We are a network service company, which is the domain name registration center in Shanghai, China. Okay. On August 11, 2025, we received an application from Yi Holdings Ltd. Requesting spooky game as their internet keyword and China domain names. SpookyGame.cn, SpookyGame.com.cn, SpookyGame.net.cn, SpookyGame.org.cn. After checking it, we find this name conflict with your company name or trademark. In order to deal with this matter better, we send you an email to confirm your company is associated with this Chinese company or not. Kind regards, Frank.
Is this a real person? I think it seems
like
it.
I don't know. It seems real, and I can't believe I'm saying that. But there also is like a Chinese address like attached to the signature.
Whoa.
When I put it into Google, it didn't like bring up a building though.
Oh, okay. Whoa.
So I don't know if that was. I don't know if it was like an out-of-date Google thing or what.
It could be a scam, I guess.
It could be, but it seems so earnest. And
yeah,
and they're basically just like asking us if we're Chinese. Are we in China? Can we use this?
Yeah.
So
we don't own this trademark. You know,
I feel like I believe it. You know?
Yeah, I think I do too, but what a weird little thing.
I'm not going to respond to it, but it is funny. And listen, if you're listening, we don't have any stake in the Chinese market. Feel free to.
Yeah, you're not. It's all direct links with us. We're not getting SEO hits from Spooky Game, you know?
Best of luck. Also, China's Googling this, China's pretty as hell.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
It's crazy that we have Google and like can look at the world and like, but like xenophobia still exists.
Yeah. I mean, that was like such a. This is getting into a whole different conversation. And I want to be clear that like I do understand, I think especially now, I understand better how this happens. But when I was a missionary, it was a couple years before there was like this huge influx of refugees to Germany, right? But there was still like significant refugee and immigrant populations. There was a guy that I like did a couple lessons with who was like fleeing from the Taliban, had been like a like a translator for like US stuff there. But was like, Iraqi. There, people I met from Syria, right? People from like all over the world I talked with, like, and taught some Muslims, and I felt, I think it's, I don't want to overstate it, but there was like some level of, I think, kinship there for me, just because we were both kind of religious outsiders, and in very different ways, and in some ways on like opposite sides of like global imperialism, right? So, but there was like, and I remember teaching this family, and who were, devout Muslims, but I don't know if she had a couple kids, but I don't know if her husband was, dead or back in their home country or whatever. I don't remember exactly. But she just talked with us about like reading the Quran, and like reading the Quran at night when she felt frightened about her life or scared or sad, right? And feeling like God comforting her, and describing the kinds of things that like had converted me to my faith, right? And feeling like this, to me, it's like it comes from the same place, right? And it felt so obvious to me. And I definitely still had like, the Mormon claim is a huge truth claim. It is a claim about like everyone else is wrong, right? And there were ways that I was trying to like soften that and work through that, that were not like outright blasphemous, but were at some level in friction with how other people and like other missionaries and you thought about it, right? But then like coming home and seeing people be so Islamophobic and so virulently Islamophobic, when like even people who I had like had these kinds of like touching experiences with, right, that was such a like strange and alienating moment of like realizing that like, I know that you had the same kinds of experiences that I had, but like your head is so far up your own ass that you can't understand them, right? And that being this like kind of alienating and frightening thing. And then I think now it's like, oh, but like you were fucking missionary, like you were a colonial actor who was like, of course you went into these interactions thinking of these people as lesser, and then no matter what they did, that bias would be confirmed, right? Especially with like language barriers and things like that, right? Like it's just, you have infinite means of like enforcing an untruth, right? But it is like, it's depressing,
Anyway, horror games.
Horror video games! Yeah. Well, do you want to talk about what we're playing next time?
Dead Space 2.
Yeah. I'm excited for this one. I haven't played it. And you haven't either, I think.
No.
So, and this also, I think it's funny that people characterize this as like the when Dead Space went action, and I'm like, Dead Space was already action. I don't know what you mean. So we'll see. I'm sure it's more. I'm sure the tone is different and the design is different, right? But I don't know. People make the Aliens comparison all the time between these two, and I'm like, Dead Space 1 was already Aliens. It was already Aliens.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I'm being pedantic, as I'm wont to do.
God, we live in hell. I'm sorry.
No.
I googled Dead Space 2.
Okay.
And the thing that came up on Google was a Steam thread for Chronos: The New Dawn.
Okay.
Which I might play also.
Yeah.
Cuz it's anyway. It's easy to play games when you have a PC. And anyway, the Steam thread says the title is better than Dead Space.
Okay.
And the text is the game better than the Dead Space remake? And the first comment is no. Dead Space is classic survival horror action. This game is woke action game. These games can't even be compared.
Oh my god.
We live in hell.
That sucks so much. Because also, yeah, people were talking about this in the Superculture Discord, which is like affiliated with like Bullet Points and Funland and a couple other things. That like the reputation of Dead Space has changed a lot since it first came out. That it was like when it first came out, it was like cool because it was part of this wave of EA trying to do interesting things that, you know, when they were trying to do that for like 3 years or whatever. Right. And also, and it's just like a well-crafted kind of, but people talked about it's like, oh, it's like RE4, but in space. Right. 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10. Right. And then now it's been enshrined into like survival horror classic in a way that like it was not considered that at the time. Right. The reputation has changed a lot. And so to see that like enforced and then also in this way of like, it's also, I don't know. Did you see that? Yeah. Someone posted this in the Safe Room Discord, but like the like lead writer.
Yeah, Tube posted this in the Discord where this guy, one of the Bluebird guys is like, hey, there's no, it isn't a political statement. I think there are political statements in the game.
Yes, yeah, there are.
There's no feminist agenda here.
Yeah. Well, I think it is like, I just don't. Anyway, this is like, I was about to like rehash some like 101 representation theory shit, and I don't need to do that on this podcast, but it is, I think it's stupid that, you know, everyone except white cis straight men is political, right?
Yeah.
It's dumb. That's stupid. If you're listening to this podcast, you know that, you know? But yeah. Also, yeah, I don't think
I'm also like a little sympathetic. Like, obviously, like Blooper Team is pretty right wing, and their response to this question is very right wing framing.
Yeah,
in terms of like we don't hate men. You know, it's just cool when it's lady, and you know, and
but yeah, like, but I will say that it is like,
what are you supposed to say to this? It's just like, there's a woman in our game who's the main character. Who gives a shit? Like,
yeah, I think that, yeah, I think it's interesting because, like, I mean, I've only played like a little over a couple hours, I think, of it. And I'll be probably, well, soon. This, like, in the next few days, there's going to be an endless mode piece by me about it. So I'll probably talk about this a little bit, but it's like, it's very much in the Metroid mode, right? Where it's like the armor you're wearing is sort of genderless, right? She's like a low, gruff voice, you know, and she's playing a role that like other women and other men have played. That's not, it's not super gendered, right? And I think, that both like is kind of refreshing in the sense of like, right-wing games with female protagonists are like hypersexualized, you know, TNA models, right? And this is like not that, but also, you know, there is like a genderlessness to, which is fine. I don't think I necessarily mean any of this in a negative way, but it is like, I
mean, if anything, that's just like, that's how they made Alien. Is like,
yeah, exactly, yeah.
The characters were written without gender at first, and then, you know, it kind of got backported after the fact.
Yes, yeah. No, I think that's like,
feels like more a play on that than anything else.
Yeah, well, I think it's also generally like, if you read Men, Women, and Chainsaws,
I have not.
It's really, I would recommend it. It's very Freudian, so that might be a turn off. But one of the things it talks about is that there is this kind of like horror antagonists are, so at first it's like horror antagonists like wield like a chainsaw or like kind of a phallic image that they wield against women, right? Who are mostly victims and helpless. But then like the final girl uses the weapon of the antagonist against them and thereby becomes male and the antagonist becomes feminized, right? And points to like Leatherface as an example of this in some ways, or like different. Anyway, so there's like, there is like kind of bound up in like the structure of horror as, you know, over the last 50 years, there is this kind of gender play element of it, and like masculine women, feminine men being like a key kind of element of the milieu, right? But it speaks to, I mean, exactly what you're talking about with Alien, right? Like Alien is like an example of this kind of thing, and it's not alone in that, right? Even if there's some things that make it kind of unique in kind of that context. But yeah, really interesting book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a podcast.
Oh, speaking of that, we're also watching Jennifer's Body for the Patreon.
Oh, yes.
Next month.
Yeah, we are. I forgot to tell Emma that we're doing that. Yeah. That's exciting. I'm excited.
But yeah, that's a pod.
That's a pod. Well, Rose, do you have anything to plug? Anything you want to give big ups to?
No, not really. SpookyGame.club, you know.
Yeah, real SpookyGame.club. What am I up to? I'm what is it? GraceMachine.bluesky.social? I don't remember. I don't post very much these days, which is probably good. And I'm we're doing an issue at tier-review about interactive fiction. We just published our second piece, which is like a retrospective, I think, of IF Comp 2017. I want to say it is really interesting, like thoughtful and thorough kind of reflection on what that competition was like for like a new entrant and what that means. I think that issue is going along well. We also got, I'm like transcribing an interview for it with a great developer that I'm really excited to show the world. So we got some cool stuff cooking over there. I think that's it. I'm also, you know, I'm writing on endless mode. If you want to yell at me about Silksong, don't. Yeah.
Anyway,
you know,
I'm pleading the fifth officer.
Yeah. Listen, well, I I wish I had like a pithy sign off from Sweet Home, but I don't have one.
Home Sweet Home.
It's cool. You know what's cool is when they play the song, the 8-bit song, and the ghost is like flying up to heaven or whatever.
It's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. All right. Sayonara, y'all.